last night, a former contestant on American Idol and a native of Parsippany, New Jersey, not too far from here with our national anthem. Time now for the introduction, and we begin with our 6th seed, Bill O'Neill.
The number 6 seed owns 3 Lumber Liquidators PBA Tour titles, the defending U.S. Open champion from Levittown, PA, the real deal, Bill O'Neill.
Huge family and local support tonight, Randy, for Bill. That can be a positive and a negative as well.
A lot of pressure bowling in front of family and friends. I can speak from experience and making some match play and television appearances with family and friends there. A lot of pressure, but a lot of fun.
And way right of target on his opening effort. And that's what we're talking about. You can get very amped. Not only is it a major, but you're rolling in front of a lot of folks, and yeah, the look away.
Almost looked like he was distracted.
So he's able to clean that one up and take a seat with the spare.
The number 5 qualifier made 2 telecasts at the 2010 PBA World Series of Bowling. He owns 8 international medals representing Canada. Dan, the man, Macllelland.
Really nice young man, and certainly one of the up-and-comers on this PBA Tour. Very quietly, he has put together a great season. This will be his 5th top 20 finish, his 4th top 10 finish. He was 6th at the TOC. This, his first appearance at a U.S. Open.
Well, you're right, Rob. Dan Macllelland just spills out class. You talk to this kid, he's just a class act. He's mature beyond his 25 years of age, a really nice kid. And when you talk to the superstars out here, the accomplished veterans, they all say the same thing. This is a good kid, good young man. But wasn't it me that said to watch out for this kid a few months ago, that this guy had game?
And an open frame for the promising Canadian in match number 1. And Dan, I know you're going to need some time to step back after that first frame. You had the option on picking which lane you wanted. Why did you pick to start on the right?
I picked to start on the right. I just wanted to build a finish last. Give myself the opportunity to just, you know, take one shot at a time and put the pressure on him.
All right, Dan, thank you. We appreciate Dan joining us live. I mean, it takes a lot to have a live conversation with us in the midst of a major.
And then, especially after I got done telling you how much game he had, and he misses the 3-6-10. But, you know, the whole thing about U.S. Opens is avoiding open frames and making your spares.
And this one won't be all that easy either for Macllelland. Seeking his first ever Lumber Liquidator PBA Tour title. Here's his effort in the 2nd.
That tremendously high backswing, a lot of power. You see the hand up the back part of the bowling ball to try to control the downlane reaction. And that's a cell phone.
So cell phone going off in the crowd, and Dan wisely steps back and takes a breather. And Randy, you touched on just how mature this young man is, and he's had to grow up quickly. His dad passed away in 2008, and his father, Leonard, was his biggest supporter. He happened to win a regional on Father's Day. A very emotional moment for him. And back-to-back open frames for Danny Mac.
Yeah, and a really tough start for Dan. And you know, that's the thing. He makes the spin. If he would have made the 3-6-10 on the first frame and convert the baby split, it's 18 and a spare in the 2nd frame. Right now, he's down 22. Bill O'Neill's bowled 1 frame.
Still with without a strike here in match number 1, and that shouldn't be overly surprising because one of the themes of the U.S. Open, Randy, is just how difficult the lane conditions are here at the U.S. Open.
Without question, no free willy to the right or a bunch of hold in the middle part of the lane. You got to be very accurate, not only with location, but with speed and rotation as well.
Back-to-back spares for your defending U.S. Open champ.
We got a really good look at Bill O'Neill's form there, and I think it's just flawless. I mean, he's a really strong kid to begin with, so he's got a great base at the foul line, but he's been working really hard on getting his ball into the swing a little bit sooner. As you see the equipment that he's using, he's trying not to get too jacked, but he's using a raw hammer jacked. One of the things you try to do as a player on any telecast, but especially a U.S. Open, is you try to somehow find a way to breathe and control the nerves and the heart rate. And when your opponent starts open, that usually helps to free your swing up pretty quick.
Now let's see how Dan Macllelland, the young man from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, can respond in the third. Danny Mac just missing that 10-pin.
You know, one of the interesting things in speaking with the players that made the telecast is, you know, this week when you left a 10-pin, you really didn't get too upset because you knew you left yourself something you could make, a single-pin spare. So it was okay.
It was Norm Duke, our #1 seed, who gave us that quote just a few hours ago. We'll see Duke in action tomorrow afternoon.
Hey, look at that.
Full mark to Danny Mac. That's one to grow on.
Well, it's not hard to root for Danny Mac, and again, I can't say enough about his talent. He's proven it this season as you take a look at his arsenal, not going with the strongest in the bag, but deciding to go with the outburst, like O'Neill not using the strongest ball. I think the reason is because they're trying to go as straight as they can early on in this fresh U.S. Open oil pattern, something straight in between second and third arrow.
We begin the fourth. Danny Mac still seeking a strike. We talked about how challenging the U.S. Open oil pattern is. We'll have more on that in the next coming segment. But you talk about the grind that is the U.S. Open. These guys are here for, on average, 12 hours a day. Bowling, bowling, bowling. To make matters worse for Danny Mac, he got hit with a bout of food poisoning late last night. Told us only got about 2 hours of sleep. Still able to make the show. Still seeking a strike.
Coming for you, Tom.
Is his third open frame. He said, I'm coming for you, Tom. A shout out to our friend Tom Doherty, who famously dropped a 100 on national television at the TOC a few weeks ago. So a huge early opening here for your defending U.S. Open champ, Bill O'Neill. Okay.
What a great shot there. You know, you talk about Dan Macllelland and the class act that he is. Well, this young man here is cut out of the same mold. You won't meet or find a nicer guy than Bill O'Neill. He's a class act, and
comes from his parents as well.
Absolutely.
Who are here in attendance.
Yep, just a great family, great upbringing, and just a nice young man. But obviously, one of the best players out here on this tour.
Early on in the season, it was Bill O'Neill who was your favorite for Player of the Year honors. Mika Koivuniemi has really stolen that mantle. Mika, your third seed. You'll see him tomorrow. There's Bill's dad to the left, Bill Sr., and right over Bill's right shoulder, almost in the middle of the screen, is his lovely wife, Christy, a great supporter of what he has done. It's always a pleasure to see that smiling face at the bowling center when we walk in.
Yes, sir.
Strike number 2 for O'Neill. O'Neill needing to win here and then in the next match versus Ryan Shafer to move on to tomorrow's championship round, and you can see it live at 3 Eastern on ESPN, 90 minutes of action. Norm Duke, your #1 seed. Tommy Jones, your 2 seed. Mika Koivu-Niemi, your 3 seed. How about that for a loaded trio waiting for you on Sunday? Ball change to Danny Mac, and it results in his first strike. Good change.
So far.
Well, it beats 3 open frames out of his first 4 efforts.
And quite honestly, those were 3 opens that were makeable spares, not the easiest spares to make. 3-6-10 in the first, baby split 3-10 in the second, and then it was the 3-6-9 in the third. However, if he converts all 3 of those, we have a ball game.
This match still without a pair of strikes for either participant.
And that's what you expect in a U.S. Open final. You want to see a grind out. You know it's coming. Don't expect 270s and 280s and 250s. It's basically survival of the fittest. Keep the ball in play, avoid open frames, make your spares, strikes will come. And it's just a grind out, Rob.
For those students out there who are having issues juggling the books and the bowling ball, Randy, try enduring what Macllelland is trying to effort right now. We'll explain when our live coverage returns to North Brunswick, New Jersey. Heel up 35 as he closes out the 6th, looking for a double.
Mr. Big Shot just doubled up. 5th and 6th frame. He's clean right now. And that's the difference in this ball game. Dan Macllelland, 3 open frames. Bill O'Neill clean through 6. What a beautiful shot right there from your defending U.S. Open champion.
Worst finish this season for O'Neill was 49th at the USBC Masters. This will be his 7th top 20 finish and 6th in the top 10. Should he win out, run the ladder from the 6th seed spot, it is going to make that Player of the Year vote awfully interesting, because that'll make it a 2-man race between Mika Koivu-Niemi, your 3 seed tomorrow, and that man, Bill O'Neill. Through the nose, but that will be okay.
You see that, tripping that 10 out late, it's huge. Again, leaves himself an easy 4-7 spare. This ball a little bit left to target, and again, it doesn't take a whole lot. But that's the biggie. Tripping the 10 out late, Bill O'Neill says, hey,
the reaction says it all. At the U.S. Open, you will take that.
Right now, if he converts here, Dan Macllelland has to throw a 5-bagger to take the lead.
And he only has 1 strike thus far through 6.
Tall odds in this Oregon.
So O'Neill stays clean. Danny Macllelland steps up. Now Macllelland is still a student at Saginaw Valley State. Will graduate in May with a BA in sociology. Right now in the midst of taking 3 classes, 2 in psychology, 1 in sociology. But you guessed it, yeah, he's been missing some classes lately. Leaves the 10-pin, and Danny Mac is going to be away from Michigan for a while. He's going to head up to Buffalo, where we'll be next week, and then after that, Indianapolis for a slew of shows. So he is essentially on the road for about 3 weeks, and he says, a very understanding faculty. They have let me work through my professional dreams and also try and finish up my academic work. Not easy to take care of both of those things at the same time, particularly at this level. Again, this is a young man, Randy. He's making his first U.S. Open appearance, and he makes the TV show.
He's got game. You're going to see a lot from this player on this tour.
You know what he's done reminds me a lot of kind of the position Bill O'Neill was in a couple years ago, making a lot of TV shows, not able to get that win. You could sense this kid was on the verge of big things.
You know, the players before him, when you'd see these superstars in the making come out on tour, I remember when Marshall Holman was the king of bowling. I was a young man then, but watching Marshall was one of my favorite things to do. And then, you know, and then I came out on tour, and then the next big superstar to be was Rick Steelsmith before he got injured. And then I remember Chris Barnes coming out onto this tour and making an impact immediately. Then it's Bill O'Neill. You know, every 2, 3, 4, 5 years you get a superstar in the making. And I got to be honest, I think Dan McClelland's going to be that guy.
Talking to Dan McClelland on who are the guys that he watches. And he said Chris Barnes and that guy, Bill O'Neill. These are the guys that he's trying to emulate. You know?
There's just so many young, exciting superstars on this tour. Let's throw Jason Belmonte in the mix.
Who's in the crowd here tonight? Michael Fagan as well.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch the new power game. Although Bill O'Neill has a lot of revs and Dan McClelland has a lot of revs, these guys can play and they can hit targets and they can be accurate.
So O'Neill takes care of that one during this little window of a break. Randy, we have a question for you. It's your More of What Matters to You fan question, brought to you by the makers of One a Day, and comes your way from John Van Dyke of Rotterdam, New York. How much tougher is the mental aspect of the game during the U.S. Open? Good question, John.
Well, when you talk to Norm Duke, he says it's 80% mental. Some of the other players, you know, they say the same thing. However, you still have to throw the ball well. But the key to the U.S. Open is being patient. You know you're going to bowl a 170 game, a 160 game. You got to shake it off, be patient, bide your time, avoid open frames like Bill O'Neill's doing, manage your game, but be patient. The mental grind of this is unlike any tournament we bowl on the rest of the season.
Norm Duke had a great line for us talking about the patience, saying you really have to be patient. When you get on TV, you have to even ratchet up that patience level even more. And O'Neill is being very patient. Just 3 strikes, but up 42, and he has been clean throughout, and he remains that way through 9.
I got to tell you, anything over 200 is going to bode well for any player on today's telecast as well as tomorrow. Dan McClelland now the best he can shoot, 193 if he strikes out. That would force Bill O'Neill to mark in the 10th frame. But Dan needs a strike here in the 9th, all 3 in the 10th, to force Bill O'Neill to show up in the 10th frame.
Didn't like it. And another nasty
Surprised they got 8 out of that.
split.
And again, it's tough. These players bowled 16 games already today, not counting practice. The grind of this tournament all week long, 50 total games to this point. And again, it doesn't take much. And unfortunately for Dan McClelland, he's paid the ultimate price every time he's missed.
That's a good point. Norm Duke and Tommy Jones, need to quote with the Emmy, very happy that they have the night off to recoup and get their game together. On the flip side, Ryan Shafer, who was in the 3rd spot heading into the final game of the day, the position round game, and he dropped from 3rd to 4th, which meant that the 44-year-old had to bowl tonight. And that certainly agitated him. And he's in shape. He can handle it. But boy, would he like a night off.
You know, I think the other thing in looking at what's happening to Dan McClelland, you have to ask yourself,
right now.
suffering from a bout of food poisoning from last night and only 2 hours of sleep, how tough has that been on him today? Is he out of gas?
Very good point. So his game today is out of gas. It is done. It is empty. Bill O'Neill, your 6th seed, will move on to take on 4 seed Ryan Shafer. This is 13th TV appearance at a major, but the New Yorker has yet to win one at a major. Randy, we saw low scoring in match number 1 at 204 to 150, and there's probably a lot of folks
Wait on the rack.
Bowl League back home saying, guys, I can drop a 204. I can take care of a 150. What they don't realize is just how difficult it is out here. And it's tough to see how difficult it is. How do you fully explain the challenges these guys are facing?
Well, that's the biggest problem in our sport is the oil's invisible. But I can tell you this, is that there's no help to the right of target and no help left of target. And the only time you create a little bit of room or margin for error is if you throw the ball absolutely perfect. So, again, that's the tough part. You can't see it, but I promise you it's the flattest, toughest oil pattern that we see all season long. We know that going into U.S. Open. The players expect it, and that's why patience is a virtue in this tournament.
I don't know. No, they didn't say anything about it.
Had a great talk with PBA legend Carmen Salvino this morning, who's in attendance, and he was saying, Rob, and he was telling me about, it was about 1 3/4 inch space on the head pin that you have to hit. to get yourself a strike. That guy knows a lot about bowling. He's busy doing some engineering with all his downtime, creating some technological advances in the bowling ball world. Here's O'Neill as we begin match number 2 tonight. Double wood. But again, a very makeable spare.
Well, now the 2-8's a little testy on this oil pattern. Anytime you have a sleeper back there and you're on a pattern that's this sensitive, this is certainly no gimme. I think one of the interesting things about the last couple of years here at the U.S. Open is the fact that we showed video of Norm Duke losing to Mike Scroggins. Norm Duke was the defending champion. Scroggins knocks him off. The next year, Scroggins is the defending champ. O'Neill knocks him off. Now here's your defending champ trying to do what hasn't been done. Like you said in the open of the show, in 40 years, Dave Husted, the last to do it in 1996.
The number 4 seed is a 4-time PBA Tour champion, former Rookie of the Year, and Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award winner from Horseheads, New York, Ryan Shafer.
Ryan Shafer, no stranger to television appearances at major tournaments. The only problem is he hasn't won any. Just 4 tour titles on his resume. Probably the best bowler in the world to have only won 4 PBA titles.
Stood up. Stood up. The guy stood up in the middle of my shot.
So you hear Shafer getting a strike despite being distracted by someone in the crowd.
Huge break, too, going Brooklyn, tripping the 6 out. When you get distracted, that could have been a big, ugly split. As you see, he is using a Marvel on the right lane, virtual gravity nano on the left. The strongest balls in his arsenal. Ryan Shafer had the choice of starting lane by virtue of being the higher seed.
Goes Brooklyn again. And he can't get that one to drop.
You throw
His reasoning for
such good shots.
letting
and throw it like that.
Bill O'Neill start this match is so that Ryan can finish this match on the left lane. If he has to move deeper, the ball return doesn't become an issue on the left lane. And that last shot just took early and never had a chance to go right. But again, only leaving a single pin makeable spare.
Shafer takes down the 9, so he starts strike spare. O'Neill steps up for his effort in the second. O'Neill with the win over Shafer in match play yesterday. O'Neill, 3 Lumber Liquidator PBA Tour titles on his resume, including 1 major, last year's U.S. Open.
Gave that a little extra touch at the bottom of the swing there. Got that bowling ball to read perfect. Watch this right here at the bottom. Let me give it a little loft, a little extra love. And that's just 10 back.
In match number 1 versus Dan Macllelland, O'Neill had just 4 strikes, Randy, and only 1 double. Looking for a double here as he begins the 3rd.
But he stayed clean, no open frames with the exception of the fill shot. That doesn't matter because he did strike first ball in the 10th.
Back-to-back jacks for the real deal. Billy O'Neill, some high fives from his buddies in attendance here.
Kid's got a lot of maple moxie. Watch this right here. Right around 3rd arrow to that dark board down the lane. A little 5-board head belly. He's like, let's go. I want to bowl tomorrow.
There's Shafer, who's had his issues but remains clean so far in the early stages of match 2. Another Brooklyn strike.
Well, he hasn't got one right of the head
Must
pin
be
yet.
trying to emulate Mika.
Had a reference to Mika Koivuniemi, who he was taking on in the final match of match play today. And Mika, he was telling us, always seems to get a Brooklyn strike versus me. Really tease him off. And well, Ryan's got his share of Brooklyn activities. Something on the approach he's eyeballing there? Or?
He looks confused. I mean, he hasn't gotten a ball right of the head pin yet. He got all that practice prior to the start of this match, and he just looks like he's lost. He can't believe that his ball's not pushing to the right. And that time he slipped.
He's yet to be right of the head pin.
Now it's a 3-10 split, and this is where he's got to gather himself to avoid an open frame. See him fall right off that shot immediately. Well, he just looks like he's lost, extremely uncomfortable, and that's generally when you start to really perspire.
Nope.
Takes care of the 3, leaves the 10. He knew it.
First
Open
one always.
frame, Shafer. And now the home crowd favorite, O'Neal, steps up with a 22-pin advantage. The real deal, 29-year-old Bill O'Neal from Southampton, PA. Working off a pair of strikes, his wife in the background as he gets set to close out the 4th. Trying to become the first in U.S. Open history to win it from the 6th seed spot.
Fun times for the O'Neal camp. Gets up there and just shreds the rack for a 3-bagger, taking advantage of Ryan Shafer's open frame.
The lead to 32. Looking to drop a quattro here in the 5th. Show me those signs, Jersey. Momentum firmly entrenched in the O'Neal camp.
There again, over the 3rd arrow at the range finders, about 15 feet in front of him. Out to that dart board, about the 10th board at 45 feet.
Big test
Perfect
for
strike.
Shafer here in the 5th. Off an open frame.
Come on, get another one.
Good Lord, everything
you're
to
good
the
today.
left of the head pin.
Well, he made a big move to the right there and
Look good today.
changed bowling balls. And again, we have yet to see Ryan get a bowling ball to the right side of the head pin or anywhere close to the 1-3 pocket.
I can't remember, Randy, seeing this many shots left of the head pin in a row on any oil pattern at any competition. And from such an accomplished bowler like Ryan Shafer, this is shocking. You can outfit yourself like the pros with official PBA jerseys that are available exclusively over at PBA.com. These jerseys made from high-performance fabric and can be customized for each person or team. Head on over to PBA.com today. Create your own official PBA jersey.
One of the things that Ryan Shafer has been working on is freeing up his arm swing. He worked with Mike Jasnow in Reno, and both Mike Jasnow and Del Ballard said that it looked like he was afraid to let go of it at the bottom of the swing, that every time he was going to release the ball, it was like he was going to leave a 10-pin.
And this time he overcompensates and is way right.
1, 2, 4, 7.
This is unbelievable. I don't know how it can get so inverted like that. I'm like throwing it all over the place.
Well, it's one thing to be lost on a scoreable oil pattern, but it's another to be lost on a U.S. Open oil pattern. That's a scary place to be. I really feel for Ryan right now. Has no idea where to play.
Huge pickup, though, for Shafer in the 6th. And we take a look at the Bear Trusted Pain Relief replay brought to you by the makers of Bear Aspirin. And that'll take some of the sting out of the issues Shafer has had through 6 frames. So Ryan Shafer down 46 through 5.5. Bill O'Neill, your 6th seed, working off a ham bone, looking for 5 in a row. Will he get it? And will he advance to tomorrow's championship round? You'll find out with us when we return to Jersey. Live last night, live tonight, and live tomorrow on ESPN. 3 Eastern, 90 minutes of live action. Bill O'Neill just a few frames away from making tomorrow's show and joining Mika Koivuniemi, Tommy Jones, and your 1 seed, Norm Duke.
It's the way the U.S. Open should be covered, my friend.
Wow. First split of the evening facing Bill O'Neill here.
And unless he can convert the 4.679, this will be his first open frame. Left of target by just about a board and a half. That would be about an inch and a half. And that's the smart thing. Just get the count. Don't try to be a hero. Remember, Ryan Shafer hasn't come close to hitting the pocket yet.
All right, come on. That may be an understatement. And this is not piling on Ryan Shafer. He is well aware of the issues he has had here in match number 2.
There's a man right there that's made 12 telecasts in major championships.
4 times he's been a runner-up. 5 times 3rd place. Right of target, and all of a sudden O'Neill, who seemed to have things figured out with strikes in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, is now unable to find the pocket.
Right here, this shot is wide right. He gets it wide of the rangefinder down lane. You see it's got no chance to get to the headpin. And I think that the thing that most folks don't realize is how tough it is to bowl this many games feeling like you're bowling in a phone booth. I mean, that's how tight the margin of error is. I mean, you talked to the players last night and the night before, and they all said the same thing.
Ow! Open frames in consecutive frames for O'Neill, and the lead shaved to 17. And as poorly as Ryan Shafer has bowled,
We have a little life.
he is still alive.
A little life now. Now it's time to just go for broke and try to find something. He went from 40 down 42 to only 17.
And he's yet to find the pocket.
Another ball change. Let's see what kind of line he chooses here.
3rd strike for Shafer.
Deep inside there.
Celebrate, Ryan.
Moved way inside. Rob's going to get the bar turn and finally got one to find home.
Our coverage of the Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open continues tomorrow, 3 Eastern, live on ESPN, and then we fire up the RV and head north to Cheektowaga, right outside Buffalo, for the Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship at the AMF Thruway Lane. You can see that one live Sunday, March 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Shafer looking for his first double here in match 2. Push.
God.
So easy to be so tentative. A little too far to the right, you missed the head pin. A little too far to the left, it goes through the nose. Remember the last time on this lane, he missed the head pin, left the rail, the 1-2-4-7, and actually converted that spare by essentially throwing a strike ball, which I thought would have given him a nice look and a little bit of confidence when he threw that last shot. However, again, a little bit left through the nose.
Shafer in his first TV appearance of the season takes care of the 3-pin, gets himself a spare. Now it's your defending champ, Bill O'Neill, stepping up, bottom of the 8th. He was firmly in control of this one, at one point on top by 46 pins. Strikes 2 through 5. Then all of a sudden the open frame bug bit him and bit him hard. Open frames in the 6th and the 7th. Here he is in the 8th, up only 17.
Through 4 perfect shots in the last 3. A little left, a little right. 2 open frames. Now this one goes through the nose. A great break, only leaving the 3-6. Bill O'Neill with a spare here will be going at a 2:01 pace. Ryan Shafer can strike out to shoot 2:04. Look out. All right, off the schneid.
There's Christy O'Neill. Well, she's got her game face on, right behind her hubby. And Bill had his foot on Shafer's throat. Then he lost the grip, and Shafer has fought back as we begin the foundation frame 9th. 17 pins separating O'Neill and Shafer from a spot in tomorrow's championship round on ESPN. Through the nose, but a makeable spare. But the pocket has been tough to find for both of these guys all of a sudden.
Last 2 shots could have been disastrous. Again, part of the U.S. Open competition, going through the nose and avoiding the big split, leaving yourself a makeable spare, and then converting the spare. All about being patient, take what the old pattern gives you, which, quite honestly, is nothing. Do the best you can, make spares. And then, again, be patient. You got to hang in there.
This will be Shafer's 3rd top 10 finish of the season. His best finish until this tournament was 8th at the Geico Shark Championship. We asked him about his season this afternoon, and he said, you know, it's been actually pretty good. The numbers may not back it up stat-wise, but he feels happy with his game. Leaves the 10-pin.
Well, let me just tell you this about Ryan Shafer, Rob. He is the best player in PBA history to have only won 4 titles, period. All the shows that he's made, not only in major championships, but throughout his career, 15th on the all-time earnings list.
And this is 50th singles appearance on television. He mentioned his 12th at a major.
The only thing keeping Ryan Shafer out of the Hall of Fame would be wins, because everything else is there.
It's been a long time since he won his last title. 2003 Empire State Open back in late November of '03.
He's bowled a 300 game on television.
Now this one comes down to the 10th, and Shafer will bat leadoff in it, down 16.
He's got to strike out and hope for a Bill O'Neill open frame in the 10th.
There's strike 1.
Now that was a nice free swing, like his coaches Mike Jasnow and Del Ballard were talking about. You could see him free it up at the bottom of the swing there. He let that one go. He trusted it. Nice clean release there. But again, so hard to do when the back of your mind is telling you don't miss by ½ an inch left or right. So hard to pull the trigger in this event. great shots right there, Rob Stone. That forces Bill O'Neill to mark in the 10th frame and get good count. Right now, Ryan Shafer looking for 10 more on his last shot here to give him 193. Bill O'Neill, if he fills 20, shoots 199.
Those 2 strikes, the first Shafer has seen on that left lane.
Closes with the triple. Slow start, solid finish. Shafer takes a seat. He's done with the 193. Will it be enough?
Well, he'd like a couple of shots back, especially early on, but he stepped up in the 10th frame and threw 3 beautiful strikes. Now Bill O'Neill needs a mark here in the 10th frame and good count to advance to tomorrow.
To take on Mika Koivuniemi in our first match.
Through the nose. And a split.
4-6-7 split.
He has to convert. He has to convert this. He needed any kind of mark, 15 pins to fill. You see it just slightly left of that dark rangefinder down the lane. Game over.
And that is all she wrote for Bill O'Neill. He will not defend the U.S. Open crown. He had it until a huge gap in the 10th.
This building's stunned right now. So is Bill O'Neill, obviously.
So is Ryan Shafer, I got to be honest with you. A miserable start for Shafer, but the vet rallied.
I didn't think the 6-2.
Well, right here, Bill O'Neill's just trying to throw it really hard to hope to bounce the 4 or the 7 out of the back pit. Misses both pins. And what looked like what was going to be a rout is now over.
Shafer with a triple in the 10th. He advances to tomorrow's show. What a conclusion. We'll be back to Jersey to wrap it up after this. A somewhat stunned Brunswick zone Carolier here in North Brunswick, New Jersey. Many of them came to cheer on their 6th seed Bill O'Neill, who seemingly had his match in hand with Ryan Shafer, but he falls. Time now for our Geico Championship recap. Bill O'Neill, your 6th seed, started things off taking on that man, 5 seed Dan Macllelland. Macllelland had issues throughout this match. Bill O'Neill only had 4 strikes, but it was enough to move on 204, 150. O'Neill, a great start. Shafer, not so much. But Shafer would find his groove, getting 3 strikes in the 10th to close at the 193. Bill O'Neill left that in the 10th, and his hopes for repeating at the U.S. Open were done. Ryan Shafer moves on, where he will take on Mika Koivuniemi tomorrow, 3 Eastern, live on ESPN. The winner to take on 2 seed Tommy Jones, and there he is, Storm and Norman, your number 1 seed, Norm Duke. But for now, the moment is all about Ryan Shafer, who's standing by ringside with Randy.
Thanks, Rob. In the U.S. Open, tough, demanding oil pattern certainly just didn't disappoint. Ryan, it looked real ugly at the start. What adjustment did you make late in the game?
Well, when we had the commercial break, I actually walked over to look at some different bowling balls, and my ball rep Schlemmer came over and told me my push away was a little short. I was just getting in my swing too early, and I couldn't feel it. He had told me that earlier today, and I could feel it then, but I couldn't feel it, so I really concentrated on that. And, you know, the ironic part is I've been adamantly opposed to coaching during bowling, but it helped me out today.
Paid off big, didn't it? Now, you were a little vocal about Mika Koivuniemi. Are you looking forward to your match with him tomorrow?
Yeah, I love Mika, but every time I bowl him, he throws a Brooklyn, and I'm sick of it. I might aim one Brooklyn tomorrow just to give back a little bit.
Well, congratulations. Good luck tomorrow.
Ryan had his share of Brooklyn strikes tonight, and it was enough to propel him past Bill O'Neill. Shafer, your 4 seed, moves on to tomorrow's presentation of the conclusion of the 68th Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open. Live coverage, 3 Eastern, right here over on ESPN. 90 minutes worth of coverage of the 4th and final major of the PBA season. Ryan Shafer has never made it to the winner's circle at a major. 4 times he's been a runner-up. 5 times he's been in 3rd place. Twice he came in 4th. Can he finally get that major and his 5th overall PBA Tour title? We'll find out tomorrow. For Randy Peterson and our entire crew, I'm Rod Stone. Thanks for watching. Congratulations to Ryan Shafer, and we will see you tomorrow at 3 on ESPN.